Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the Forbes TechVoice, Taming the Beast, Retail XO. This is a series of webinars that explore how specific industries have been affected by the pandemic and how it's using technology to mitigate challenges and focus on business continuity, with a specific focus on the Middle East and North Africa region. My name is Anthony Haddad, and I'm the Chief of Staff for Amazon's MENA operations. On behalf of the Forbes Middle East team, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Automation Anywhere and Ghassan Aboud Group, and thank you to all our attendees joining us today across Zoom and social media. So today, we'll be exploring how the new normal shifted shopping trends, causing brick and mortar retailers to readjust strategies as they work to meet the changing needs of customers while ensuring their safety. I'm joined by a rock star set of speakers today, and I'm eager to jump right into it. But let's first do a quick round of introductions, starting with Sumit.
Thank you, Anthony. It's great to be here, and hello all. Yes, my name is Sumit. I'm digital evangelist from Automation Anywhere. Been in the banking domain for 20 years and now moved to Automation Anywhere last year. So been a practitioner previously and now taken a leap of faith and on this side of the table. So looking forward to exchanging with you what we are seeing with our customers in the retail space, how the trends are changing and what are the new trends coming up. So yeah, nice to see you.
Thank you, Sumit. Anna?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Anthony. My name is Anna Germanos. I am the head of consumer packaged goods, retail, and e-commerce at Facebook in Middle East and North Africa, based out of Dubai. I spent most of my career in the space, working in tech companies, as well as in management consulting in the consumer and retail. So the shifts we're seeing in the pandemic are phenomenal, and I'm very happy to discuss this today with the industry experts. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you, Anna. Sebastian?
Thanks, Anthony. Hi, everyone. My name is Sebastian. I'm the EVP of Global eCommerce at Checkout.com. I set up the Dubai office for Checkout just over 7 years ago, and we've been helping merchants across the GCC and North Africa ever since. Accept payments through digital means. So hopefully we'll be able to share some insights that are on topic. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Sebastian. And last but not least, Zadie.
Thanks, Anthony. Hello, everyone. Thanks to the Forbes Middle East team for the invite, and great to be part of this panel. I'm Zadie, heading client partnerships for TikTok, part of the ByteDance network in Dubai, covering for the region. Similar to Anna, I had an experience in 2 other tech companies before, and also had a few runs in the startup industry, whereas the last one touching e-commerce, which makes it even more relevant with the current context and the current discussion.
Thanks, Zadie. So let's dive right into the most natural place to start this conversation. In the now, about 9 months into the pandemic, it's fairly obvious by now, but hard not to underscore again and again the truly once in a century nature of this pandemic and its impact on how it's touched our daily lives and accelerated digital adoption. So there's a recent McKinsey report that I think is quite jarring, but data shows that we've vaulted 5 years forward in consumer and business digital adoption in a matter of around 8 weeks. Banks have transitioned to remote sales and service teams to sell and administer products. We've seen it with the move to online grocery. Parents know begrudgingly that schools in many locales have pivoted to 100% online learning and digital classrooms. Manufacturers are actively developing plans for lights out factories and supply chain. The list goes on. And retail and how we shop is just one of these changes in this broader set of changes. Sort of having my Amazon hat on, even though I'm moderating this session, one quick thing that we're often asked is, what are you seeing at Amazon? How have consumer patterns changed? Well, the increased comfort with online shopping has shifted from the priority related items to the pandemic. So for several weeks, we were seeing our number 1 and 2 items sold on Amazon to be water bottles and face masks, we're starting to see increased shopping of grocery-related categories, food, disinfectants, sanitizers, house cleaning products. We've also seen purchase increases in lifestyle categories, including kitchen appliances, toys, and sports categories. So obviously this reflects the change happening around working, studying, and staying at home, and customers have increasingly come online to get their daily needs while staying safe at home. And our sole focus at Amazon has been the safety of our customers, workforce, and selling partners during this time. So that's sort of from an Amazon perspective. But if we sort of look to our esteemed panel here, Sebastian, I'd love to get your take at checkout. With a sharp increase in online activity at the onset of the lockdowns, can you walk us through some of the changes you're seeing on your end for consumers and businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of set the scene here, we obviously have data that we see from merchants across the various industries that we process for, which gives us a pretty real-time insight into how people are paying and where that sort of is trending. Supporting that, we've also recently commissioned a study that's gone into reports where we try to capture information that allows people coming into the region to seize the opportunity. To do this, we worked with YouGov to poll thousands of people across the region, across the spectrum of societies, just to kind of get an understanding. How comfortable are you paying online? What is your intent to shop online going forward? How have these things changed in 2020? So I think right now we're able to give a pretty accurate snapshot of what's been going on. And as you were saying, I mean, 9 months in, I don't think anybody's going to be shocked to hear that we've seen a dramatic increase in people shopping online. A lot of necessary spend has simply shifted away from brick and mortar face-to-face transactions and shifted towards e-commerce. And we really see this across all categories. So from general retail, as you were mentioning, groceries, food, even things like laundry. I mean, any of these sort of conveniences that are available to us through applications nowadays, all have seen a dramatic increase. To put a number on it, checkout in MENA has seen a sort of 250% increase year on year in card not present transactions. And what's gratifying is that we think, to back up what McKinsey are saying also, a lot of these behaviors are becoming increasingly ingrained because the number of people stating in our survey that they trust online payments, that they consider them to be secure, that store their cards in the applications or on merchant websites, thus giving clear intent to use it again. These are all trending positively. So across GCC, North Africa, I mean, this is really not specific to any geography. We really think there's a large-scale adoption of digital payments happening right now. And this is obviously then further aided by the fact that the traditional alternative, which in this region is almost always cash, in some cases, I mean, taking Saudi as an example, for a time period was outlawed just because of its role in transmitting the virus. So, on top of just sort of natural trends, we also have governments that are actively trying to push people into the sort of digital economy. And these things combined obviously work in favor of us seeing a continued trend in transaction growth.
Absolutely, and anecdotally, I can safely say on the Amazon side, we've seen the same in the transition from cash on delivery to e-payments. I sort of wanted to transition a bit to Sumit and your work with Automation Anywhere. Can you tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do? You have an interesting sort of story arc yourself, but tell us a little bit more about the work you do with clients and what industries have been affected the most by the current pandemic?
Sure, Anthony. So let me just first explain what we do as a company, and then I can go a bit more deeper into what we are seeing with our customers. So, right, while Sebastian spoke about the consumer behavior that basically leads to a lot of work at the back office and how our technology is being used. So Automation Anywhere is world leader in RPA technology, which is robotic process automation, right? we see in any given organization, there are many different applications are there. Not all applications are connected, right, with each other. It could be some are connected by API, some are not, right? So a lot of data entry work, a lot of, say, for example, order to cash, P2P, demand management, forecast analysis, all of that is done quite manually. It's very labor, intensive activity which is done. So that's where RPA comes into picture, which automates these processes at the back, right? So it's a screen scraping technology. It will mimic the human behavior. It will follow the steps which is done by the humans, right? And in doing so, you basically take the robot out of human, and you create that capacity for human workforce to do more knowledge work rather than more mundane activities of low value, high volume activities, right? So that's exactly we work towards, and it's with structured data as well as unstructured data, like getting an email, downloading the document, understanding what the document is, reading the invoices, reconciling and the sorts. As you can appreciate, it's a lot of manual work involved in doing these things, which can be done with the help of automation and process automation, right? Now, as you can appreciate, when in March, April, when the pandemic was brought upon us, we've got some 4,000 enterprise customers and a strong presence in MENA region as well, a big office in Dubai. What we thought that, okay, how do we respond to this situation now? Because there is a way, not all industries are impacted, in a similar way. So we divided them into 3 buckets: the industry which needs to be efficient, the ones which needs to survive, and the one which needs to be saved. For example, the efficient ones are the one with pharma, healthcare, many of the retail companies which falls into the category of essentials. They need to respond to certain needs pretty fast. Survival is hospitality, and then you got tourism and the sorts, and saving is like banking and insurance and the sorts, right? So what we saw that those organizations who had digital workers or automation or RPA in place were able to be more resilient to this change which was brought upon them, because with distributed workforce, spike in certain types of requests coming through, where while you're working distributedly, you may not be able to hire, there is disconnection in the way you communicate. We were able to utilize automation to help them and go through that. What we've also seen is, because the cash flow that was going down, was flat, right? The top line was flat. How do the retail industries are creating new revenue models? How they're opening the new channels. In order to do that, they have to go through the entire value chain, from identifying the opportunity to putting the process through from the logistics perspective, to put the RFQs out, to get the vendors on board and all of that. And that's something significant change which we saw, that a lot of FMCG companies as well are looking at trying to respond to the new needs to keep the lights on and keep going. And that's where the automation was used as well. So it's more about 2 things which we have seen: how to respond to these spikes of the new type of request which is coming through. How do we create the capacity so that the employees are able to take care of that, and the manual lights on activity is taken care by the robots? And second is that how do you basically create new opportunities in such scenarios, so that there is the top line, you reduce the impact on the top line, to say that. Yeah.
Super interesting. Thank you for this, and I think we'll touch on a couple of those points again a little bit into the session. We have an eclectic panel today, and we're graced with the presence of both Anna and Zadie, because social media is so important to this part of the world. Yet one area that maybe might not be sort of top of mind for everyone is how are businesses and brands interacting with consumers differently during COVID. If you think about social media, we now have 3.8 billion active social media users around the world, which is nearly half the global population. According to World Economic Forum data source, Facebook has over 2.6 billion monthly active users. TikTok, which is a new and emerging giant, has 800 million monthly active users. And we all know anecdotally how well penetrated the MENA region is, with some of the highest per capita engagement stats in the world. But what has this meant for businesses and brands in the region in a time of limited mobility and limited physical retail. And I sort of wanted to start with you. Facebook has been the go-to platform for small businesses when it comes to creating their digital identity and for marketing their products and services. Can you tell us a little bit more about your sort of menu of product offerings and how you've really adapted during this time?
Sure. So I'll probably, Anthony, take a step back before tackling the small businesses angle. So it's not foreign to anyone that online shopping and e-commerce has been soaring during the pandemic. And it's been, while it used to be a convenience, during the pandemic, shopping online was a lifeline for many. And we have multiple changes of behaviors that occurred during the pandemic, and some of these behaviors are really stick to stay. And e-commerce, when surveying consumer, is the #1 behavior that is here to stay. So there were a lot of digital shifts that were happening with our partners, with all the businesses who found themselves that overnight they have to be online, right? And Facebook has been at the heart of all these digital shifts, right? Not only we have the platform with massive reach, as you said, across all these different countries, but we also provide the tools and solutions that enable these businesses to go online in a matter of days, and more importantly, to shop online. What businesses have been primarily heard during the pandemic is really about top line, right? How can we create demand for our product and services on large businesses, as well as, more importantly, on small businesses. And what we've been involved in is really a strategic involvement in the modern ways of marketing. And this is the concept that Facebook have around discovery commerce. While e-commerce traditionally was really about you wanting a product, going online, searching for it, and buying it, now it's even beyond that. It has to be discovery. It has to change from people finding products to product finding people. And this is how you help businesses tap into new pockets of consumers and grow demand and grow their top line. So thanks to discovery commerce is really a mix of smart artificial intelligence algorithm combined with broader targeting that will help businesses to really serve the right product to the right consumer at the right time, which is the ultimate goal of marketing. And this has helped these businesses grow their demand. So imagine the potential of these two SMBs, right? SMBs, so we have run a global survey with the World Bank and the OECD across 30,000 SMBs worldwide, including MENA. And what we have seen is that SMBs globally and locally have been suffering from two major challenges. One is lack of cash, and second is reduced demand that impact directly their top line. And unfortunately, in MENA, we have seen during the first wave of the pandemic, around 36% of these SMBs that have closed. Luckily, as we're surfing through the pandemic, this number has dropped by 11 percentage points to reach 25%, but it is still a challenge. That's why the focus of Facebook on SMB is immense. And we have a number of initiatives to help these SMBs who are at the core of the economic development in developing countries, because SMBs contribute a lot to the economic development of countries. One, by reducing poverty, and second, by reducing the income inequalities among the mass of the population. So they're really at the heart of the economy, and that's why Facebook is focusing on that. So among some of the initiatives that we have launched, you've probably heard about our Love Local campaign that we launched in August, that is primarily focusing on SMBs, shedding light on their stories, giving them voice, and supporting them to be more visible to the consumer across the region. Other initiative that we have done, we've launched a global program around $100 million to support SMBs globally. And in Dubai specifically, we have a $500,000 grant to support SMBs, both in cash as well as in ad credits. Coupled to all, the training programs and the tools that are available in all languages, be it Arabic, French, and English, where SMBs can go on to our multiple hubs to get trained, to get connected with Facebook experts, to help them build their presence online as well as start selling. So along this, we have, of course, our products, right? So it is no surprise that the timing of launching Facebook shops is crucial in our region, and it primarily helps SMBs to have a shopping destination for free just by creating their shop on Instagram and Facebook, which is reducing tremendously the path to purchase and allowing a product to get discovered by the consumer, click on shops, buy it, integrating with the payment gateway, and then get the transaction done. So reducing all the friction around the path to purchase to help primarily these SMBs as well as large businesses that are, before the pandemic were primarily traditional and selling offline. With the store closure and the reduced footfall in their stores, they also had to overnight build a presence online. So leveraging all the apps, Instagram, Facebook, and a huge surge we've seen on WhatsApp and conversational commerce that is trending a lot in the region because of the personalized nature of the interaction that works very well with the MENA consumer. So all of these solutions have really been leveraged by very large businesses as well as SMBs, and I'm happy, to see the impact that we are able to give to these businesses to thrive.
Hey, Anthony, do you mind if I just follow up with that? Because Anna touched on a lot of stuff that's really very topical, and we have some sort of supporting numbers to back this up. So I think e-commerce, which is what everybody knows, is actually being assaulted by social commerce coming in as a sort of new distinct category, which precisely to Anna's point, this is product finding people. We actually, we asked this question and in MENA, as we know, it's a very sort of mobile app heavy demographic. In fact, something like 45% of respondents said that they would only shop through apps or would have it as their sort of preferred medium. And then, within that, we had a sort of significant number of respondents also saying that social commerce, things through WhatsApp or, where products have found them almost through their community or through their network, that was, had higher sort of trust factor. It was kind of their preferred way of finding where they'd like to go shopping. Now, if you combine that with, sorry, I'm kind of repeating a lot of what you said, but you made some really, really good points, and you're really hitting on a lot of the questions we were asking. Even traditional brick and mortar brands that have been around for decades, when that switch happened and we got into lockdown and all of a sudden they had to be online overnight almost, just having the tools to be able to do that. It's not easy to whip up an e-com shop and get going in 24 hours. There's obviously there's a lot of sort of building blocks that need to be put in place first. So at its most basic, having something like Instagram or some form of shop front that you can use just to push products, and then either through payment links that get sent via WhatsApp or just giving consumers the means to actually order something. It's actually interesting to me to see just how many merchants we had. We saw a huge surge of inbound requests for accounts being set up. Over 1,000 in the first few weeks of lockdown. And this was across the spectrum from SME to, in some cases, relatively large, well-known brands that have simply never prioritized online as a channel. One of the biggest things we were able to help them with was just giving them, a form of technology that was flexible enough to sort of flex around whatever they were trying to do in terms of, getting a solution up and running quickly. And then, combining that with all the data that we're able to give back, because it's worth mentioning, the last thing you want is at checkout. These are the tools that Facebook are looking to build into their shop, just, making sure that from top of funnel to checkout, everything works seamlessly. It's worth mentioning that in MENA, we see one of the lowest tolerance rates for declined payments anywhere in the world. So, if something gets declined here in the region, which happens more often than it perhaps ought to, only 20% of respondents said that they would be willing to try again. So, having the tools in place, having something that allows you to get up and running very quickly, and not necessarily turning it into sort of, an 18 months project where you're building a full e-com store from scratch. I think this is where these kind of new trends have pushed a lot of service providers as well to do better.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Sebastian. I just sort of within the same vein of social media, we have Sadie here with us from TikTok. I think in the minds of some, TikTok is the home of lockdown viral lip sync videos and synchronized dances. But it's also a very potent tool for commerce with a fairly impressive demographic skew, I would say, toward the younger population, which is particularly impressive here in MENA. Zadie, I'd love if you could share a little bit with us about maybe some of your adoption and demographics data in the region, but specifically, how are brands and businesses interacting with consumers today on TikTok?
Sure, Anthony. So you've mentioned we're the new kid on the block. I think we've seen increased adoption this year. The big bulk number that you've stated earlier on, we've had incremental reach month over month with high double-digit growth. Everyone might have seen us, trending on the top of the App Annie charts. This to say, penetration is there. I'm stating the obvious by saying that we're rich from a Gen Z perspective. We're also well penetrated from a millennials point of view. And I think what COVID-19 has brought along is a higher penetration across all age groups in the region. A local and relevant penetration. We had a number of third-party studies on the purchase power and the purchase intent of our users across the region, which we're leveraging on day-to-day now. Before I talk about TikTok and retail, I think it's important for us to take a step back and look at traditional retail, right? In-store traditional retail across segments, to understand how we're trying to help brands in that period. There are three pillars that come to mind when you look at traditional retail itself. The first one is brand building and brand love. Brand love is what, for those of you who are in Dubai, what makes you stop around midnight coming back on Hessa Street to a McDonald's drive-thru and order a McFlurry in the middle of the night, right? It's that attraction to a brand that makes you take this extra step towards and go for a buying pattern. After brand love, I think you have the experience itself. Again, a Dubai-based example, you go to a Zara store in Dubai Mall today. It has nothing to do with what a Zara store was 5 years ago. The architecture itself, the flow, everything is done for the footfall to come in and also the stickiness to be there, right? It's much more of a comfortable experience now to go shopping to such a store it was a couple of years ago. And then last but not least, what we're all missing, I guess, working from home, and what shoppers are missing from a retail point of view is the human side of things. I mean, we're all in a lockdown state or socially distant. And when you talk about retail, it's also about the social point of view, humanization of that retail experience. And so you link this back to TikTok, and on those three pillars, you see very quickly that the platform is extremely relevant. We have unique capabilities when it comes to brand building, whether from a pure media point of view, with first impression formats on reserve by basis and high reach, impactful solutions. You go into everything around UGC and creators, and you see that our community engages with brands to up that brand equity and show the brand love that we have. And then we're also actively tackling AR experiences now. We have a very advanced set of offerings there, all of which come within the scope of brand building and brand love. A Kantar study globally and also regionally was released recently. It puts us on top of ad equity across markets. This to say that we know how to engage our users towards building equity with a brand. Experience is my favorite pillar, I would say. You talk about experience, so we've talked about TikTok, Anthony, in your introduction. you're labeling us as a social media giant. We're a video-first content discovery platform. I think I'm going to build on the discovery part that Anna announced. And you look at TikTok today, it's short, snackable content. And it's an easy, I would say, user experience. You come in one click, you drop into a feed, and you can explore all kind of content along the way. Whether it's, to-do type of content, must-have, must-buy contents across.
That where you're not talking.
And so, with that said, the experience is extremely relevant. The experience itself is extremely pleasant. And content discovery on TikTok is fueled by a content graph. So what we see as being the greater expression of intent is not search, it's not social, it's content itself. And content adapts to each and every user as he or she goes on the platform. So just to say, you look at Spotify's top 50 today, 70% of the songs have been initiated on TikTok. You talk about product discovery, 50% plus of our users would discover for the first time a product on TikTok. And so the experience itself is built towards that objective. Last but not least, I've touched on the human side of things. We praise ourselves as being authentic. And I believe one element that everyone would agree upon and on, including our viewers today, is that it's unlikely that you navigate TikTok and move out without a smile or without a positive experience. We offer that positive experience across, we talked about music, it's the case across all kind of content that you can drive or go through. And so that positive environment is something that is unique to our platform. And when you say positive environment, you say as well that users are in a mindset and in an ecosystem that allows them to engage. And that engagement will convert from a retail perspective in a much more easier way with the setup that I've announced around the 3 pillars. So brand building, experience, and authentic human experiences, I would say, would be those 3 points. And beyond that, the growth has been from a user perspective. We also have grown tremendously in terms of team. We have 100 plus people catering for brands in the region. SMB is a big focus, 50,000 plus businesses registered, Arabic localized platform, 80% of the campaigns running in Arabic. We're the new kid. We're extremely dynamic and excited. And this to say, we have what it takes to be a retail-friendly environment.
Zadie, thank you. As a quick reminder for our participants, we do have a Q&A button. We will be taking questions from the attendees in the last 5 to 10 minutes. So please feel free to ask your questions there, and we'll pick a couple toward the end. I want to come back to one theme that keeps coming up, and Anna really underscored this, and Sebastian as well, which is the role of SMEs or SMBs, small, medium enterprises or businesses, as an engine for growth in our region. We've been seeing a lot more businesses trying, obviously, to intensify presence online, if they already were online, or even start selling online for the first time. And this often requires a little bit more hand-holding, and I think Anna walked us through how Facebook is sort of tackling this quickly from an Amazon perspective. We've sort of done the same and introduced a partnership with the Khalifa Fund in Abu Dhabi to launch eEmpower, which provides interactive e-learning content to help SMEs really thrive in the digital economy. And there's a specific menu list of options for SMEs interested. It's open today to Abu Dhabi SMEs. But these are the types of initiatives that we at Amazon are trying to invest more in, given this new normal. So I sort of want to pose it to the group here. What do you think businesses need to do to keep growing in this context? And how are you helping them to do it from your perspective?
I can go first, if everyone agrees. So, building on what I said earlier, and I'll probably tackle the question in the Q&A. It's helping businesses today. The biggest challenge that they were facing during the pandemic is really how can we grow top line. Nobody was thinking about profitability, about bottom line, given that the main hit of the pandemic and the store closures and the, as I said, reduced footfall has really hurt the top line. So we really engage with our partners in the ecosystem. It's not only Facebook, but it's all the partners we work with to help businesses build an online presence, and making sure they invest in one, attracting new customers and grow their customer base, and those they have attracted, retaining them, because it's much more profitable to retain a customer for a business than to go and attract new ones. So they go both hand in hand. And thirdly is really specifically when it comes to retail and e-commerce is doubling down on measurement, because at the end of the day, the funds that you have are limited, right? So you need to make sure whatever you invest, whether in infrastructure, whether in marketing, whether in advertising, is really effective and efficient. So making sure you have the right visibility on the ROI and on the conversions for every dollar you spend in these different buckets. And this is where we've been helping. There's an example I'm very proud of with one of the very large retailers, traditional retailer in our region, specifically at the beginning of the pandemic, whereby most of their businesses was running offline. And imagine, with stores completely closed, like the drop in revenues overnight. So what we've helped them really in a matter of days. Open over 50, and with our partners, of course, 50 WhatsApp channels. But more importantly, what they've done is they have trained their in-store staff for conversational commerce. And they have used their inventory, in-stock inventory, for these specific transactions. So liquidating the stock in the store, and also retaining jobs of all these people that were store staff and found themselves, overnight not doing anything. So this shift in mindset that happens, with the retailers, and us fueling this and helping them has been instrumental in really creating impact on these businesses. And really, with the shift of e-commerce, yes, e-commerce is growing, but offline will remain very much present, right? E-commerce, we've seen in more advanced markets, depending on the categories, there's a level of saturation whereby e-commerce per category reach a certain level of saturation, and then offline is still predominant, and offline is here to stay. So it's not a fight between offline and online. And this, to answer the Q&A, maybe I would say it is, what do you see as the potential negative side effect of a society largely built on online interaction and e-commerce? To be honest, it's what businesses should focus on is reaching the consumer, right? Online is another sales channel. You can think of it as same as offline is a sales channel. Whether the consumer is online or whether the consumer is offline, brands needs to be present whenever the consumer are. So think of it really always from a consumer lens, and wherever the consumer are, just make sure you are present, providing the right offering and value to the consumer to attract them.
So thank you. And it's, to your point, it's not, and I would agree, it's not a conflict between online and offline, but one question I have is there a tension between large versus small, meaning are larger companies versus SMEs advantaged in this current scenario? When we think about automation, for example, so the automation of operations, how can SMEs actually participate in this? What sort of mechanisms do we have to maybe help them smooth some of the upfront fixed cost obligations that they might have to invest in automation? And obviously, Sumit, this is a question that most pertains to you, but open to the panelists as well.
No, this is an interesting question. I would take some leaf from what Sebastian and Zadie have spoken about, right? So first thing is, let's think about the channels. Now it's an omni-channel, right? But if I talk about digital channel, I have this phone on my hand, and I expect expect the same experience to whatever app I access to, whether it be Facebook, Insta, it could be TikTok. Same thing happens to the services as well, and whatever I'm accessing, right? So it cannot be that, and we toggle between the two apps many a times when we are going through, right? So it can't be that I'm able to get Uber within within 30 minutes, but or less than that, but it's taking some time in terms of ordering something, or some services, maybe insurance, banking, or whatever which I'm looking at, right? So that something is completely getting flat, and the organizations are responding to that, okay, how do I basically keep that neutral experience throughout, right? So on one axis, you've got volume going off the roof, and on the second is that you have to maintain that experience, right? In that case, how do you ensure that at the back end is equally robust and strong? So as you asked, Anthony, in big organizations, the volumes are huge. Sebastian spoke about from the payments perspective as well. So you've got the army of bots working there 24/7, day in, day out, to provide that real-time experience, to provide consistently and the same response to the customer and accurately every time. But for the SMEs as well, now think of the situation as we spoke, right? And also spoke about that the top line, we have to create new opportunities. Right. In doing so, there's a lot of activities. For example, you have to go for the new vendors. There is, the demand planning which needs to be done. There is, the processing like P2P, O2C. You have to hire new staff. All of that activity takes a lot of time within the SME space, right? Now, is there a way you can basically automate those processes, those steps, right? So that the workforce which you have can work towards providing better experience to the customers and focus on the top line, right? Just understand the customer demand and respond to it quickly, rather than getting bogged down into this paperwork, reconciling, and the sorts, right? So what that means is that automation is for everyone, right? It just, you use it in different, capacity. From Automation Anywhere perspective, yeah, we basically cater for that. Doesn't matter what size of the organization you are in, right? So you can go onto the website, you can download one license and use it. One more thing which we are seeing, and again, it's applicable to both the sides, is the adoption of cloud. I think everything as a service is coming out now, because pay as you go model, as nobody wants to block their capital in doing a massive automation transformation program, and more so applies for SME as well and SMBs, right? So how do we ensure that they have the right technology provided so it is scalable, right? It is resilient, and they're able to pay for the services which they are using. Again, that's where the cloud deployment of automation is very, very useful. And I think it's now ubiquitous. We have seen massive growth in cloud adoption recently, like because of pandemic. People just, companies don't have that capital to block. So they're just going with, cloud as a service model to respond to the need for the new services which they are bringing in. So on the channel side, for example, you have the amazing platforms like, Insta and Facebook and the sorts. But on the backend side, on the infra side as well at the back, there's a huge cloud adoption is there. So that is that. And I would like to respond to, just want to, double click on the previous point, which Anna and Sadie were speaking about, right? I think while, product find people, Anna, you spoke about that. I think it's also services. Like my wife is a yoga instructor. Since pandemic, her classes have gone, this number of students have significantly gone up because they've adopted to that particular channel, and she's able to take classes on Insta, right? So it's amazing that it's not only product, but it's also the services which has been able to, yeah. I just want to share that with you.
Hey, Anthony, just one thing that I kind of thought was worth mentioning as well, because you asked about, are SMEs disadvantaged versus, the sort of big box retailers or large companies that are going through the same shift. I think one of the aspects that's kind of important to touch upon, and again, it's something that Anna mentioned earlier, service providers, where I think we can add a lot of value in helping SMEs kind of overcome a resource deficit that they may be experiencing versus a larger competitor, is also in having access to usable data and helping them to understand what they can do with this data. If you look throughout the journey online, from the top of the funnel all the way to the bottom, in and of itself, each of these steps will have quite a lot more complexity associated with than the average SME would potentially have envisaged when starting on the journey. Optimizing ad spend is a very complicated topic. And It's something where, I mean, large retailers or large enterprises would have dedicated teams who are sort of optimizing this to the nth degree. If you work with partners that can help you take that data, understand what it means, and help you along that learning curve, then you're actually helping them massively leapfrog sort of these sort of challenges that they would otherwise be facing. Specifically, and I can only speak from a payments experience here, but obviously if you've done everything right, you've gotten the person onto the website, you've gotten them to add an item into the basket, and you've gotten them to sort of add all their details, and they now want to check out. If the payment declines, then it was all for nothing. I mean, that transaction has to happen in order for all that initial work to be worthwhile. Now, in this region, each of the various countries have their sort of complexities around local payment methods, different debit switches that operate across the GCC, alternative payment methods that may be relevant in places like Egypt that are never heard of elsewhere. Having a consultative partner that can kind of help you make sure that you're relevant and able to serve the consumer that you're trying to talk to, and in case there is a problem, understand what the problem is and what can you do to avoid this going forward. This is really where you can you add a lot of value, like I said, in closing that knowledge deficit that otherwise would just with the lack of resources that an SME is always going to have versus a larger competitor. I think that's quite important for people to sort of look out for when choosing partners to work with.
Super important point. Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, everyone. One last question that I hate to receive as a panelist, but I'm the moderator, so I guess I get to ask you. Future trends. No one has a crystal ball, but to sort of think about more specifically, a question we're often asked in this in our respective businesses is, what will remain in terms of consumer behaviors or business behaviors? What is permanent about what we've been seeing and what will sort of normalize? So can you, and this is open to the panel, can we think about, in your respective spaces, what do you think sort of reverts back to quote unquote normal, and what new behaviors will sort of stick with us for a long time to come?
Anthony, I'll jump in first on this one, because I've understood it's not a question you want people to answer usually. So thanks for putting me in that spot. It's a great topic to go for. I mean, we're in a period where change was imposed on us, and part of the role we play with the brands and the partners in market is to try and consult on those future trends and try and anticipate what would be the next new normal to deal with. I think if I categorize them into two pillars again here, as ByteDance and TikTok, we have a strong anchor. If you look east in the Asia market, you have hundreds of millions of people that are in markets that are more advanced than ours, that are already living in the future from a commerce and retail perspective. And so we're in this unique position to be able to test and launch products and also absorb them and adapt them to the region with an humongous richness, I would say, in terms of not only solution, but behaviors and insights. And so I think in terms of immediate trends, everyone is talking about the next super app in the region. That's something that will have to come to town and be assessed. But I think from a commerce perspective, two main points. Live commerce is one. It's one of the tools that everyone has jumped in during COVID. How to replicate, mimic that experience. It's Sumeet's wife showcasing a yoga class and then having people subscribe live to be able to be part for the next one. It's retailers going to their stores, whether it's SMBs or large companies, and using their staff to be able to show what they want to sell, how to wear it, and as well to consult to their own consumers. You have gamified commerce, which is something we're actively working on. How to incentivize the user to take action toward the brand with a reward, whether it's participating in a challenge on TikTok or just liking, following, taking an action on a given piece of content. So integrating with loyalty programs, reward systems, and couponing that retail would bring along. And then on the existing trends, the next pillar, we've seen some existing elements being extrapolated. I want to talk about creators and influencers marketing, whether it's affiliation or just direct impact and influence. They've been there for a while. They're growing. Our creators community is one of the largest across markets. We leverage them to be our advocates and be the brand's advocates across the board. That's going to stay because, again, you need that human experience and you need to have that consultancy approach, whether from a brand or a consumer perspective. And then last but not least, it's around the education. We've talked about measurement product solutions, but all those actors in the market and all those consumers in the market have to be educated. So products will come along to better educate users on how to approach the online sphere and the online ecosystem, and also drive them to adapt and adhere to that balance between offline and online, because it's not a zero-sum game. It's something we want to push together.
I can probably add on Zadie's comment, which are very relevant. So I would double down on the real-time connection with consumers. So, and this is particular to the live experiences, right? When we launched Facebook Live, we were not imagining the impact or the importance of it. But in the pandemic, we've seen a surge of live streaming happening on our platforms, and in markets where live is monetized today, it's a great shopping experience whereby you can combine influencers in a live format and showing services. So rightfully so, Sumit, thanks for adding that notion, as well as product and people commenting and interacting in real time. So this is what we call the real-time connection with the consumers that is possible online. The second aspect to it, which is a trend, is I've already touched on it, but it's this conversational aspect. WhatsApp has massive adoption in our region. I don't know if we like to chat so much, but we've seen around the globe really a huge uptake on chatting in general, whether on Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp. It's probably driven by the fact that we like these personalized experiences with businesses or even with individuals. Think of yourself, how many times you go to your phone and you chat over the day. You can replicate the same experience with businesses, right? And whether it's for shopping, so what we call it the conversational commerce, or for customer support. And long were the days. I mean, we still do it, hanging on the phone, waiting for a customer support representative to pick up the line and take on the query. Imagine you can do it in real time on conversational channels. And we've seen a huge uptake of businesses investing, and across all industries. It's not only retail. It's telecom, it's automotive, it's CPG, building, first starting with the humans answering these queries, but then as scale grew, it's more building the bots, automated bots to really cater to the volume of queries that are coming, whether for commerce or for customer support. And I'm happy to say that in MENA, we have a lot of partners that are from the region, working for the region, to help these businesses build that presence online. And as a trend, I really see, conversational support or commerce picking up on all conversational platforms.
I sort of want to, sorry, before Sebastian and Sumit jump in, I was wondering if we could maybe spike the comments along the lines of the questions we've received. And I want to combine two of the questions we've received. It's sort of a lamentation on the fact that as we move toward increased automation and online presence, there's no more sort of physical touch and presence as part of the commerce value chain. And obviously we touched on omni-channel and that it's still there, but I sort of want your perspective on, is it that commerce is moving in the direction of online and the automation and physical has no role, or is it just that it plays a different role in the value chain? Like, where do you see the physical component in all of this?
Let me give a shot at that. I think the way I see it is, let me wear a consumer hat and see, right? The way I see the trend would be like, for example, my 6-year-old, she speaks with Alexa more than she speaks to me, right? So and it's not a good thing. She doesn't come over to me to ask questions. She will go and ask questions to Alexa. Because I challenge her to ask questions again to respond, but that's how it is. But the thing is, I think where phygital, as we call it, physical and digital world basically combining. It's a big term in India where I'm right now. It's like, if I have to go and buy a car, I'll like to have an AR VR technology where I'm able to see the car, right? And then once I've shortlisted that, when I'm understood, then I will go physically for a drive, or I'll go to have a look at it, right? So I think that the needle is more bending towards that of getting the first information in the digital format. Like even for the houses, right? I have seen that with the smartphones and all, you put that with the augmented reality, you would know which all houses are there. You can take a tour of the house, and once you've shortlisted 2 or 3, you will go physically in the house to basically go and buy it. So that's how I see the changes taking place. Responding to the previous question, Anthony, from the trend perspective, we see the digital assistant coming big time. I spoke about my daughter, but we're also seeing that coming in the workspace as well, because employees are consumer themselves, right? What they're experiencing as a consumer, they would want to experience as their employees as well, right? So how easy it is for them to basically do their job. Is it possible that they have a bot for every individual, right? So they have got their own personal bot, they can name it, and that bot can do a lot of work while this individual or employee is able to do something which is a bit more high value activity, right? So that is the trend which we are seeing, where bot for every individual, or the bot buddies which are coming through at the workspace to help them to do their job.
Yeah, maybe just from my side to wrap up, because again, I think it would be quite a brave prediction to say that physical space becomes irrelevant. I think to Anna's point, brands just need to get used to the fact that they need to be available to consumers across multiple media, and physical is definitely a part of this. If from the consumers we spoke with, one of the main reasons why they shop online is speed and convenience. So if you look at sort of typical daily utilitarian transactions that you kind of have to go through, if you can do it through 3 clicks on an app, and then it arrives at your doorstep the next day, that's obviously going to push people to using this for things where they don't necessarily want to feel or experience the product before placing an order for it. That being said, if it's not what they want and they need to go through a refund process, do they want to hang around for the courier to arrive and do all the labeling, or would they rather just pop into the shop and in a sort of omni-channel setup, do the refund then and there? These are things where, as a brand, as somebody selling to consumers, I think it's very dangerous to make assumptions on what is more convenient for the consumer. You should just make these things available so that they can decide for themselves what works best. And this necessarily will, require some form of physical presence that you can still leverage for this. That being said, one of the easier trends that I'm less hesitant to sort of make predictions about is, today in the region, in the GCC, we still see around 35 to 40% of transactions, depending on the country, coming in as cash on delivery. This is usually driven by some wariness still on the consumer's part about, the reliability of the vendor. Are they going to send me what I ordered in a time frame that I'm comfortable with, or would I rather hold on to my money and see it happening before I actually pay? If I compare that with, when I showed up in Dubai just over 7 years ago, when most merchants were still sitting on sort of 90 to 95% cash on delivery, there's a very, very, very clear trend which benefits both the merchant and the consumer in terms of security, in terms of not having to be present, just convenience. The shift towards digital payments, from my part at least, I'm quite confident, was accelerated by COVID for sure, but it's not a trend that's going to reverse or decline in any shape or form once the pandemic is over.
I would tend to agree, and I think specifically grocery and the need to be able to access grocery items during lockdown has been a very interesting entree to help accelerate digital payments as well from from the Amazon experience. And I would be, Sebastian, a bad corporate citizen if I didn't say, you said next day delivery. With Amazon Prime in the UAE, you can get same day delivery now. But thank you everyone for your time. I'd like to wrap up our session today. Zadie, Sebastian, Anna, Sumit, thank you so much on behalf of the Forbes Middle East team. And thank you to the audience for tuning in today.